Oh, hello. Don't mind me, just trying to bait the Kraken out of hiding. Yeah, it should work after a little bit of time, wouldn't you say? Hello, this is PTTGRW, and welcome to episode 2 of Mass Transit in the Kerbal Space Program. Now, what you just witnessed was actually a bug or glitch, I'm going to say. Now, it originates from these two parts because they have this ejection force, is my guess, since the command module is mixed with the decoupler. My guess is that when the joints got reworked, when you put one down and try to stick it on top of a tank, what happens is the Kerbal, it doesn't connect properly, and when you try to EVA Kerbal, well, it says he bailed out. And you can see this is happening by the fact that it's floating. So if you try to pull Jebediah out, it bails him out and we can duplicate him. Now, something to note is none of them are Jebediah himself. They don't adhere to normal physics, and they are called Unknown Mystery Component. And they have some EVA propellant, but no food, water, or oxygen. And they just kind of roll there. Nothing special if you time accelerate. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting bug. But in all seriousness, let's go back to the VAB and launch our mission. Now, if you remember last time, we took a mission low over the moon. However, this time we will be landing on the moon. And I already have a craft prepared for this. And now originally I wanted to bring 3 Kerbals to the moon, but I decided I'd settle for 2. Except it's 2 separate landers stuck on a huge launch platform. Here are the landers, and we're bringing 2 probes along because we can. Yes, now you're saying to yourself, why would I create something like this? Why not just one simple lander? Well, a lot of people say that the most noob-like thing you can do in the Kerbal Space Program is build a massive vehicle. Like, a biggest noob's mistake is that you build something too big to get into orbit. Well, ever since I got the mod Kerbal Engineer, which I got it pretty early on since I started playing Kerbal Space Program, and using it, I always make sure that these work. And indeed, this one works. As crazy as it looks, it will get us to the moon, and these 2 landers will land and get home safely. And we're bringing a couple probes along because, well, we can. Staging's already worked out, and everything's set to go. So, how about we launch it, and I can prove to you that I can design crazy things that make me laugh when they work. Here we go. And of course, because I have Kerbal joint reinforcement, I do not need the launch clamps, which is something I do like. But throttle up to almost maximum. If I go to max, then it doesn't work, I guess. I've tried this a couple times to make sure it worked, and this is the first recording to see if it works, so let's see what we can do with it. And I'm getting some weird turning. This should be lovely. I hope you all like fire and explosions. Oh wait, now I know what's wrong. Need to be controlling it from there. I was controlling it from Jebediah's pod. Now, there was a random jump in the recording. That's because I forgot Bill. So I just went back, got him, and relaunched the vessel. No parts have changed, it's the same as it was, except now we have Bill. And I'm just keeping my throttle down a little bit as to try not to go too fast and fight wind resistance so badly. I can't actually start my gravity turn until about 15,000 meters. Otherwise, this thing kind of falls over. I guess the top is too heavy and it just flips out of control, which is unfortunate. So we're going to begin our gravity turn and throttle back up to maximum. We'll be performing a gravity turn as we always do, cutting into our next stage. We also take a moment to note the Visual Enhancements City Lights mod is pulsating a little bit. And we're not entirely sure why, but hopefully it doesn't affect our game at all. Now, just burning against the horizon so that we can more efficiently get into orbit, have an explosion but no damage is done, and we're just slowly burning, waiting for apoapsis where it's more efficient to get our periapsis up and into a stable orbit. And we just burn pretty close to our periapsis, make note of its efficiency, and check our delta V, and we start making our maneuver node to get to the moon. Nice encounter. Once you've played Kerbal Space Program for a while, like I have, and I'm sure some of you that are watching, you just know that you create a node, you point it towards the moon, and then you burn. And we can actually make it more efficient if we do this, because we can slow it down some. Yeah, it's not too much more efficient, but we will just have to do. Now, the reason we are going to the moon and landing is because we have reason to believe the moon has materials we can mine. Now, we already know that Kerbin's surface has tons of materials that we can mine, such as iron, which is how we make our rocket parts, and it has water, or a form of liquid fuel, particularly and most likely hydrogen, with an oxidizer. So we know there's plenty of interesting materials on Kerbin. However, what could be on the moon? Well, we need to travel there and take some surface samples to find out. See if we can't find anything valuable or worth creating a trade route to the moon with, maybe even a base. So our fearless Kerbalnauts begin burning toward the moon, detaching some nose cones and entering their final stage. After removing the nose cone hazard from the path of their vessel, they continue forth toward the moon. Now I'm going to cut out until we're ready to land, because this is just the typical boring get the encounter, create an orbit around the moon. However, one thing I do is I need to take a little bit of fuel into this launch stage to fully get me into my captured orbit, as we'll see in just a moment. Right here, I run out of fuel getting my capture. Luckily, I had plenty of fuel, or at least a little bit, in this top canister right there, and we put that in our main drive and complete our circularization. And here we just fill our two landers with snacks and start detaching everything. Unfortunately for the probes, they don't work because our decouplers were on backwards. And as we can see here, we activate our engine, but we get no thrust. So these probes are just going to be pretty much space junk for now, until we can find a way to maybe use them in the future. Final burn for landing. Now, I'm aware it's more efficient to do it kind of in this manner, where you get really close. However, I'm going to leave it at this and probably aiming for the inside of that crater. So here we go, open up the surface tab. I want to see when I'm planned for impact. Now, we are approaching the crater wall, and we will land in this crater. Looks like it has tons of good science for us, and possibly knowledge to whether or not there's some type of material on this moon that we can utilize. And now is the time I decide I should take a quick save. In case something bad happens, we might be able to recover it. However, typically I'm a little too cocky for that, using quick saves, and I'm already in the crater. Didn't even notice. So we are going to go full throttle. Probably land in this little hole here. Looks like we will be. Unless we overshoot it, then we'll be landing on a nice cliff. Oh, those are always fun, aren't they? But no, it looks like we get right in the middle of the crater where it's nice and flat. So, deploy our landing gear and prepare. Now, most of the time I just look at impact time and make sure that I'm going certain speed, typically 5, 6 meters per second. But impact time is probably the most useful stat in all of this here. Now, I have been playing around with KOS scriptable autopilot, and you can make that land for you in pretty interesting ways. Kind of like MechJeb, except you have a lot more control, assuming you know how to program the script. But less than 200 meters from the surface, we need to take it nice and easy. Slowing down a little too much. Just kind of control our speed. Going down. We want a nice soft landing, or we don't want to start going back up either. And this is going to be terrible. We're going to crash, I can tell. So how about we just drift along a little bit until we're on some flatter ground. We could not land on the hill without tipping over. Plenty of fuel left, still plenty of fuel, plenty of delta V. We can definitely do this. Now I need to cancel my horizontal velocity while not falling to the ground too quickly. Descending yet again. Nope. It's going to be another too hilly to land spot. Wish the moon was like it was back in the day when it was much more perfectly flat, I guess is the term to use. Now bleed off my horizontal velocity slowly and come in for the landing. This time it should be good. Nice and easy. And if we can remain stable, Bill has successfully landed, which means now it's Jebediah's turn. So now that Jebediah is landed safely, we will begin gathering our science. Now most of the science is kind of generic and boring, so we're not going to be reading it off. This was just like the last landing where it was try a spot, find it's too hilly, try another spot, too hilly. But I eventually did get landed, and we will be planting a flag for this monumental moment. Take a surface sample. You reach out to pick up a handful of dirt you planned on building a sandcastle with. However, the greenish tint to the pulsating mass of dirt you see reminds you of the mission. We can fly rockets, everyone. We can get to the moon. We can land on the moon. But we cannot form coherent sentences. And as my past self wonders what that sentence structure was supposed to be like, he does eventually realize that it did make sense. He was just putting pause where there was no need for pause. So we can indeed form coherent sentences. Although we have to dump one of the goo experiments, as you see, because this command capsule can only store one of each experiment type, and we had 2 goo experiments. As you can see, we just quickly grab our thermometer data and bring that into the ship with us. Now, before we go and get the science that Bill has, we're going to put Jebediah into an escape from the moon. To do this, we're just going to burn in what we thought was the right vector, however it was not. So we wait until apoapsis to switch our vector, as you see, and burn straight away into a lunar escape. We stage to our final stage, which still has about 1,000 meters per second of delta V for how small the engine and tank is. Now you've seen me gather science once, so we're just going to skip ahead a bit. You had science to gather. You reach out and pick up a handful of dirt, the same one. I don't know if I should be more thrilled that both my Kerbals can do science and cannot form coherent sentences, or if I should be wondering why both of them were thinking about building a sandcastle. I'm going to say great minds think alike and move on from there. So, let's sit right here and grab all of our science. Because we will not be bringing the back with us. Whoa, more weird. I'm guessing that's due to the new joint system in 235 that we're seeing some of this really odd stuff. I don't remember putting solar panels on this, but I'm glad we have them. Otherwise we might run out of power. Now, this guy is in a little bit more eccentric of an orbit, but it's still the same vector, so I believe we should be heading toward the 90, maybe. Let's hope this is right. And it is. So full throttle ahead. This one has a little less fuel, because we did a little more drifting during our landing and it cost more for us to land initially. Jebediah waited till apoapsis until he burned, so he was a little more efficient getting a landing. However, it doesn't look like we will be escaping the moon without needing to stage yet. However, it is time to stage, leaving behind all of the unnecessary. And time accelerate to see. Wow, they're almost gonna get an encounter, these two guys. But they will not ultimately. So now we just need to burn prograde. Until our periapsis is within the planet. Except since we're coming down pretty quickly, not necessarily in the planet, probably about 20 to 30 kilometers down. That way we kind of arrow brake into safety. 22, that should be perfect. Switch to... Actually, I need to get the time on this. How long until our periapsis? 4 hours and 17 minutes. Hopefully Jebediah's is not too close to 4 hours and 17 minutes, otherwise I can't control 2 craft at once. And I don't have any autopilots on them, so it could get very odd. We might have to pick who we're going to be bringing back. But I doubt it will be coming to that. And Jebediah does not have... He does have his engine enabled. His apoapsis is just much higher, taking a bit longer to slow down. And Jebediah's time to periapsis is an hour earlier, so we should be fine. And our engine is not working? It is. That was weird. So, Jebediah will indeed be landing first. And as always, time accelerate. Looks like we might be coming in over land, but I'm not too sure. And we have to put trust in our real chute parachutes to work because, well, they're the only thing we have. Well, aside from this engine, which probably does have enough delta V to land us, maybe. I'm not going to bet on it, so we can deploy our parachute anytime we see fit. Those clouds are really making the mountain look kind of glossy. Kind of like... Now, I'm going to pause the video right here just for a moment. If you notice the world is broken, and I should have noticed this earlier when I was recording. Now, number one, the mountains and the ground on Kerbal did not load. Number two, the world is cracking, as you can see by the X of pretty much phased through. Now, I'm going to revert back to the beginning of this video to show you something. Oh, hello. Don't mind me. Just trying to bait the Kraken out of hiding. And we're destroying something. Wonder if we land on that seam, what might happen. So the world is broken. Congratulations. Might have been from what I was doing earlier. Creating 1,000 Jebediahs and Bills with whatever kind of bug that was from the... I think they're from NovaPunch. They're the, like, Odin rockets and such. This is looking unsafe and unfit to land. Is it a fog? Is that what I'm looking at? Or is everything going to break? Because I can't quick save any other time. I'm going to do it now in fear of bad things. So I can at least reload this and try, because I'm seeing through the world. And there's the moon. That's where we came from. I have a bad feeling about this. Come on, it can't be this early that my world breaks. We haven't quite landed yet. Few hundred meters. I don't like this at all. Typically, when you're looking through the world and you can see the moon, something bad is going to happen. And it feels like a countdown. You can just see the distance drop until I hit the surface and just explode without any hopes of survival. No? How about we reload in hopes that reload in hopes it either fixes itself or we can come up with something. Whoa, this is different. There was not a mountain there last time. And we also had a parachute last time. Are we going to be getting a parachute? It looks like we are going to get a parachute, even though we don't have one. I'm not going to argue. We have trees. A bunch of trees. A lot of trees. Even trees on the mountain, which seems impossible because I figured trees need a source of nutrients from the dirt. I don't think they can actually get it from rock. Unless that mountain is a lot softer than I'm expecting it to be. Aside from that, and all of these beautiful ground cluttering trees, maybe we'll survive this landing this time. I really hope we do. I'm just going to bend. And do we get to live? We do. Oh, please stop rolling. And I'll recover Jebediah to get all of the grand science he has to give us. Let's see, because we have 2 of these. We got 374 science. Now let's get another 374 from Bill. So, apparently in the very beginning of this episode, when I was saying that I was just baiting the Kraken, that was entirely intentional and I expected all of this. I will tell you that because I can say whatever I wish, and you will never know what the truth is. But in all honesty, my initial plans were to use those 3-person command pods and bring Bill, Bob, and Jebediah all to the moon all at the same time. But that joint glitch was happening, so I couldn't, and then I just kind of stumbled upon the bug when I tried to bring them out to wonder, why isn't this working? But apparently I did not lie. Apparently I did end up baiting the Kraken because we just saw the Kraken, did we not? However, with seeing the Kraken for the first time in only episode 2, we have seen several landings, so we'll just be speeding through this. This landing's a lot less exciting. No Kraken, no random destruction, just a pretty generic landing in the mountains at night, so not too much to see. However, it does yield a lot of science, which we will be using. Cover the vessel and get another delicious slab of science from the moon, which we will have many more missions to because there are still plenty of biomes on the moon to explore. But we collected our surface samples, so we're going to have to give it a couple of days. So we find ourselves at our flag, our first landing flag with all of its hexagonal glory. And what we're doing is we're just going to set an alarm. It'll be a raw time alarm, and it's going to consist of 3 days in 10 minutes. Now, 3 days is how long it's going to take our scientists at the Kerbal Space Center to completely determine the composition of the surface samples we have brought back, both Jebediah and Bill. But we still have a ton of unused science that I would like to use. So, how about we browse what we have? I'm thinking upgraded solar panels and batteries is our first priority for 160 science, along with radiators. Now, as I ramble on about science, I ultimately choose to grab the advanced solar panels. I grab the docking ports, and I also grab fuel lines along with the extra science components. And I'll show those. We have the docking port, the fuel lines, and the extra science. I think we're going to be unlocking this pretty soon. I've been playing with the advanced grabbing unit, and I have a couple things I want to try. that I've been working on, so we will come back to that pretty soon. However, with all the science we've gained, I think that we're going to bring this episode to an end. I'm PTTGRW signing out, and I will see you next time when our scientists have fully discovered what lies within the dirt found on the moon. See you then.